Hello and welcome back. Before I introduce our next keynote speaker, I'd like to take a minute and talk a bit about past and future. There is an old saying that says that when life gives you lemons, you can make a lemonade. And I think for the past 15 months or so, we've enjoyed quite a lot of such lemonade, unfortunately. And we can see how disruptive the whole pandemic was for the entire society. Cluj IT and Cluj Innovation Days has been for years a promoter of digital transformation, and through infusion of knowledge into the community and events that were organized and support provided to different organizations, we try to do our best to support those organizations. However, when the pandemic came, a lot of digital transformation followed, caused by this pandemic. And this is the way we started to make lemonade from those lemons. Now, leaving the joke aside, the future might bring us different events, more or less fortunate, so we need to be prepared. Things that we've done in the past, things that we have tried to do in order to help the community and help the organizations are going to be continued in the years that will follow. As part of that, we want to move away from the lemons, and we want to move into a new age, right? And that age is the green age. That age is the age where we need to be focusing on an economy that is allowing us to live much longer as a society, to be able to save our resources and to be able to make sure that our children and their children are going to be able to use what we're currently building. Our speaker, just to make sure I'm not misnaming, is Mr. Bjorn Soren Gigler, Senior Digital Innovation Officer at the European Commission, professor and author. Mr. Gigler, we are happy to have you with us.
Well, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be back. Warm greetings from here, from Brussels. I remember very well we worked closely together with Cluj on the Startup Europe Summit in 2019. So many thanks to the city of Cluj and the government of Romania for your continuous support. So I'm delighted to be here. So when you're ready, I can start the keynote presentation, but if you could please,
yes, we're ready for you.
Could you show the presentation, please? That would be fantastic. The one I sent you. So if not, I guess I have to do it without presentation or. Okay, so I'll just start while the presentation, I guess, is being loaded. So, okay, so the green and digital transformation. Very important.
Excuse me, I think
yes?
you need to share your screen. You can run the presentation on your screen. You have a small sharing button at the lower side of the screen.
Oh, I see. Okay. So then 1 moment, please. But the green and digital transformation at the center of it is really, as you said, a very different approach we need to take to yeah. So 1 second, please. So now, okay, I'm sharing my screen now.
Okay, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so the key priorities for the European Commission is, as you pointed out, the green and digital transformation. But what is really essential is that we look at the interlinkage between the intersection between the both. So there's been a lot of work done on the European Green Deal in terms of enhancing sustainability, environmental protection. And then we work a lot with actors like yourself and others on the digital transformation. But one topic we feel strong we should strengthen further is to what extent digital can be an enabler to this sustainability and to enhance and to really address climate change. So here the first slide is like on the European Green Deal. So you here see also very important, leave no one behind. So our just transition process, because in Romania, for instance, we are very aware that there's an important structural change happening in the away from fossil fuels and more traditional manufacturing towards innovation. You know, we want to promote the innovation-driven model of economic and social development, which is inclusive and which also provides particularly young people with lots of opportunities, also jobs and enhancing their skills and being advancing. So we have to find a balance between some people call it green growth. So basically a green environment whereby you find synergies between the sustainability agenda and the economic growth agenda. And that is possible. So it's not that greening the economy means that you have to reduce economic growth. You just have to have a forward-looking vision on how you can really restructure economy and strengthen new emerging sectors, such as the digital, but also, of course, renewable energy. Clean tech has huge potentials, but has not been yet fully exploited. Here, this is a digital and green transformation. So the intersection. So the Paris Agreement very clearly indicates that we need innovations and new technologies in a pull and push fashion. So pull, I mean, like we need to adopt the technology, but we also need to push in the sense that completely new breakthrough technologies are necessary to basically confront the important challenges of climate change. Both transformations are taking place at the same time, and they're intertwined with each other. But often people are either working in green, in sustainability, or they work on digital. And this intersection is often not really taken into account, or at least not sufficiently. Digital innovations such as AI, blockchain, IoT, supercomputing provide really unprecedented opportunities to enhance sustainability for the economy and society overall. But they have to be managed. The digital skills are critical in this aspect because people need to adopt this technology, need to understand this, and it cannot be just a very small group of people using the technologies, but a broad spread diffusion, if I may, across, say, for instance, the Romanian society across Europe. And then here, radical new thinking of business model is required. So we have to think outside the box. We need to basically, this is the challenge of this generation, you could say. This is the major challenge our societies are confronting with. How do we tackle the climate crisis? And therefore, we need really thinking completely differently and across all spheres of the economy and, if I may say so, of our lives, of the whole society. It's not about just saying e-mobility or electric cars. This will not solve the issue. We need to address the climate crisis across all areas. Now, a key challenge in Europe we have is, and we all look a lot towards the US and MIT lab or others, is how do we get our greatest innovations out of the lab and into the market. So commercialization of digital clean tech. UiPath is a fantastic example in Romania. But unfortunately, at least we think it's a little unfortunate, they had to basically relocate to New York and go public there. So why isn't it possible that we could support companies like UiPath better through really European programs and European financing? So on this case, we worked very hard on this scaling up clean tech and other innovations. So we faced two so-called value of death. The first, early stage, and the second, growth financing. So we need to find ways to really support the most talented and innovative entrepreneurs across Europe to innovate, to come up with completely new technologies which which are confronting this crisis, and we believe there are very important opportunities here. So now the footprint, so the key is the environmental footprint of ICTs is a big concern. So first, we talk about greening the ICT sector. So think about the data centers. Bitcoin is a lot in the news, but it's also e-waste. So at the moment, ICT is responsible for 8 to 10% of global electricity consumption, and the CO2 emissions are only so far at 2 to 4%. Expected to grow, say, to 6, possibly 8% by 2030. But you see, the emissions, the digital sector itself is responsible is actually very small in comparison to other sectors, such as, for instance, agriculture, transport, of course, energy. But nevertheless, it's really critical that we, if you wish, do our homework first and are enhancing the sustainability of the digital sector. The second issue people just don't think about a lot is the actual production and the climate emission caused by all the tools and gadgets we are using. Just think about mobiles. So 60 different metals are required just to produce the mobile phones, and very few of those are being recycled. And the lifespan of digital devices has steadily decreased. So we are very worried about the frequent changes of computers, laptops, cell phones, and the e-waste we are all producing this. So it's actually a call of action to all of us, to all citizens. We are all in this together, and we need to hold companies better accountable. And for this reason, we have launched the European Green Deal Coalition, Digital Green Tech Coalition, and it's basically working with the companies to enhancing their sustainability of their products. So next, so now one of the technologies we are working on is blockchain technology. So now this is just an example how, for instance, blockchain can be very effective to also provide to support the green transformation. So here you just see our overall programs. So we are having a blockchain partnership, European blockchain partnership. We are investing and we are establishing a lot of research and development in this area. So why blockchain? Because blockchain brings trust to the digital transactions. It can actually really make a huge difference in efficiency and lower transaction costs and provide real data, and is important to effectively verify and validate data. It's based on a decentralized data model and can enhance transparency and accountability. So one of the key issues of climate change is how, for instance, climate market, carbon trading, how do you enhance the transparency, accountability of markets? How do you make those markets more effective? And how do you actually broaden the participation of SMEs, small companies in the European emission tradings and ETS? So here we have to provide, we can use innovations such as blockchain to really completely change the paradigm and use complete new models, also through the tokenized economy. And I can give you then concrete examples how we as citizens, for instance, could be rewarded if we have, for instance, environmentally friendly behavior. So bottom line, if you, for instance, would commute to work by bicycle instead of using your car, you could receive a reward in the form of tokens. And please don't underestimate, because after all, climate change is also very related to the need to change behavioral, our our behavioral changes of ourselves, and not just it will not be sufficient just to change the consumption patterns and the industrial production patterns. So so next here you see key challenges. So is it a double-edged sword? The use of technology. Many people criticize digital because it's high energy consumption, particularly related to Bitcoin, as I mentioned. But here, actually, now the new proof of stake, which is a complete new technology, new way of operating from the proof of work. So Ethereum 2.0, for instance, is now moving to its new model, which is much less energy consumption needed. The interoperability is a key challenge, technology maturity, scalability, quality of data, data protection, and the regulatory framework. So we work a lot on regulatory sandboxes, whereby you can innovate while you are basically while you're regulating this in a on a pilot scale or in a sandbox. So now some concrete examples. So here I can give you concrete how the Paris Agreement talks about information and information flows. So here the enabling a transparent information flow is critical, and to enable a secure flow of data. It is also about monitoring. It's about tracking greenhouse gas emissions. It's about evaluating how can we whether the NDC, so-called nationally determined contributions by each country, are actually met, and facilitate also climate financing for new and really breakthrough technologies that enable what some people would argue a leapfrogging in terms of climate technologies. So the next is blockchain for climate action. Here, very concretely, blockchain can be used to enhance the traceability and transparency of global supply chains. So there's actually a lot of CO2 being imported, so from abroad. So every time you purchase something, say just to give you an example, if you purchase some Chinese product, the price of the product does not include any carbon pricing, and you actually are often importing large amounts of CO2 emissions through your products you import. Second is improve measuring, reporting, verification of greenhouse gas emissions. So here also citizens can play a critical role through crowdsourcing and through basically citizen monitoring of CO2 emissions, which through the decentralized nature of blockchain should be possible, and also through the rapid use of IoT devices, AI, and others can put this technology into all our hands. And so it's not just very few who could monitor these carbon CO2 emissions. It could actually be done at the citizen level. A very important aspect is finance. So we need more finance. We need enhanced access to finance for sustainable finance and innovative solutions. We have to take more risks, be to be more innovative, more equity financing, and to basically back really highly innovative enterprises that work on these frontier technologies. So here you see the needs of the Paris Agreement and how blockchain technologies and other high devices can really support this. The first is the need for information sharing, review mechanism. It's all about trust. So how do I know whether this corporation or this SME or this business in fact has reduced CO2 emissions. Everybody is now doing these pledges, they are pledging they're coming carbon neutral. But how do we know that is in fact being implemented? So therefore, trust is very important, and information sharing. Second, accountability. So verification, because blockchain is time-stamped and immutable. It cannot be changed, and it's open. So basically, you can better hold also actors accountable who provide these pledges. Decentralized hybrid approaches. So it's all about decentralized data system using consensus model, and measuring, as I mentioned before, measuring, reporting, verification emissions. And what is really needed is a public-private partnership for consensus mechanisms among multi-stakeholder, among all the stakeholders. Let me check the time. Okay, so just quickly to wrap up. So here's another example: traceability on supply chains. I already mentioned that. So we can really monitor and track the origin of these products, and all of us consumers can track where actually these products come from. So now maybe, yeah, this I already mentioned. So I know we are basically wanted to conclude. So here's the efficiency of carbon market. One last slide. So here, this is really fascinating and important, because the European carbon markets, the ET emissions, does not include around 75% of businesses. It's many SMEs, companies, small, do not yet participate. And so blockchain technologies could significantly enhance, and other technologies, AI, IoT, or other frontier technologies could significantly reduce transaction costs and broaden its reach, and also through smart contracts automatically process these transactions. So in sum, what let me please stop conclude is that what we need is radical rethinking of the paradigm. We need to be brave. We need to embrace this as a positive change, which will be challenging and will require structural change. And therefore, we need to also, through mechanisms like the Just Transition Fund, support regions that struggle with that change and provide them with economic support while these new innovations take ground. But I think Romania is well placed through your fantastic innovation capacity in Cluj, for instance, to innovate new breakthrough technologies and taking them to the market, and hopefully scaling them up also at the global level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gigler, for the insightful and valuable information that you provided. And I'm really happy to see that what is needed for this digital and green transformation is really well aligned with our mission at Cluj Innovation Days and Cluj IT Cluster. Thank you again for being with us.
Innovation Days is part of the Future Skills lifelong learning program. The project is co-financed from the European Social Fund through the Human Capital Operational Program 2014-2020.
It's my pleasure.